Hi, I'm Brad Thomas with NBC Sports EDGE. I'm joined by Jay Croucher and Paige McKenzie. We're going to talk about how to bet the President's Cup. Yes, that's right. The President's Cup is this week at the iconic Quail Hollow in Charlotte, North Carolina. Let's start with Paige. Paige, I'm looking at the top American market. Is there anyone who you have your eye on?
Yeah, I'm keeping my eye on Justin Thomas. I feel like this is a little obvious considering he won the PGA Championship there in 2017. But when you also take into account the finishes that he's had at Wells Fargo event at this golf course, he actually averages a half a stroke better than anybody else that's going to be playing this week. So it's hard not to pick Justin Thomas. But I will say, when you look a little further down the list as far as long odds go, my eye goes to Kevin Kisner. And I think a lot's going to depend on how much he's going to be played by Davis Love III. This is a player that brings a lot to the table as far as match play experience. When you consider that he's won the WGC match play, also finished runner-up there twice, a good record at President's Cup in 2017, it's really hard to ignore everything that he brings to the table. My only concerns there are this golf course is very different than Austin Country Club, and I think it's going to require a little bit more length. And I also don't know how much he's going to get played this week, so I might wait until foursomes pairings come out on Wednesday for Thursday's lineup to see that he may even be played. But I don't know, Jay, am I crazy to even consider Kevin Kisner as an option here?
I don't think you're crazy, Paige. I do think that Kevin Kisner, the good thing with underdogs in a tournament like this is that, it is correlated where the more you play well, the more likely you are to play more. And this is as much about volume as it is about talent, just the usage of just playing more days. So if Kevin Kisner starts off playing really well, then he is more likely to keep up playing. And that momentum, I think, makes underdogs pretty appealing. I do think, though, that you touched on it. The reason why I wouldn't be as confident in Kevin Kisner is that historically at Quail Hollow, there is a huge skew that rewards length off the tee, and that's not Kevin Kisner's game. But certainly, it's a small sample size. So, for a given 4 days, I think that Kisner could be a shot. Just be a little bit worried about the distance.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me when you talk about Kevin Kisner, especially the groundskeeper said they're not going to have the rough any longer than 2 inches this week. And we're just thinking about bombs away. From a sheer momentum standpoint or coming in with a chip on your shoulder, I do think Kisner's going to come in with a little bit because a lot of people all over the internet, the media was talking about, he kind of was like this gifted in. He didn't deserve it. And when you have a guy like Kisner, he is a guy you want to bet on when the cards are stacked against him. So I do like Kisner as a long shot if he's playing enough. For me personally, I'm going to be on JT. Anytime you bet a tournament like this, yes, the odds are important, but you also want to have a little bit of fun. Personally, I think JT is one of the most fun team guys, and it's reflective in how well he performs in team events. And if you think about back to 2019, JT had the most points, and he didn't win his singles match. And imagine if he does the exact same thing and wins his singles match. At his odds right now, it's kind of something you can't pass up. If I were to pick a second option, it's obviously the leader on the board, and that's Xander Schauffele. Xander is just playing absolutely brilliant golf, and he's proven that he can win in these team events after winning Zurich with Patrick Cantlay. Let's move over to international. This one was a tough one for me because there's a lot of debutantes in this field, and there's a lot of guys who kind of just have me scratching my heads. Guys like Mito Pereira, K.H. Lee, who hasn't had much success at this golf course, but has been playing a lot better recently. Jay, do you have a top international guy you're looking at?
I do, and I think Paige might have the same one, but it's Sungjae Im, where I just think that his form makes him clearly the guy here. He is the favorite, but he's plus 600. He's only slightly shorter than Hideki Matsuyama. I think that gap should be bigger. He's been top 2 in 3 of his past 5 starts. He's been top 15 in all 5 of those starts. So there's also really serious competition in those fields. He wasn't just beating weaker fields. So I just think that he is the form player and he should be the clear favorite. And I also think that he's probably the most likely of the international players to just play the most, which is the most important thing.
I see that too, Jay. I think he's going to team well with a lot of players in the team. I see him teaming with Tom Kim, both of them coming into this week with a lot of form. I also like him specifically on this golf course because of the tee to green game that he brings to it. It's top 10 this year on the PGA Tour tee to green. And then you add into it what he's done on the putting greens in the last third of the season. Since May, he's averaging over half a stroke gained on the greens. That sets him third of all players in the field this week. And when you have that combination of great ball striker, great putting, you obviously see why he's performed well, but I think it'll pay off well this week for him as well.
Yeah, Sungjae is the option. He is the only option in my mind, unless you want to go with Tom Kim. You alluded to him earlier. He's won in North Carolina already, and most importantly, he's hired Joe Scovron to be on the bag for him this week, Ricky's old caddy. And when we think about a guy who's electric, you got to think about an events like this. He had a quadruple bogey and still won the Wyndham Championship. Why? Because he makes a ton of birdies and he gets really scorching. Those are fun in team events, especially when you're playing best ball. When you have a guy like Tom Kim who can take the pressure off his teammate and post a really low score, he's just going to say, hey, I'm going to be Mr. Consistency. I'm going to putt very well from distance. It makes the four ball a lot easier and a lot less stress. Let's move on to a little bit. I know this is very lopsided for the United States, and I don't think I could see myself betting the draw here at plus 1,600. Do either of you guys think you see value in backing the international side at plus 700? Or how do you bet this?
Yeah, I think unless Rory McIlroy gets Australian citizenship in the next 72 hours, I think that the international team is in a lot of trouble. Talking about Kevin Kisner being a weaker option on the US team, I mean, there are still six guys on the international team ranked lower than Kevin Kisner, and whereas he is the last guy on the US team. So I do think it is a bit of a mismatch. It's a shame that Cam Smith isn't playing. I think that would have balanced it out a bit. I don't think that the international team is drawing dead by any means, but I think that the price is right. The US are minus 700, and that strikes me as about fair.
I just think there's other ways to play it. I think certainly in play as the sessions go on, there might be opportunity for a little better value if you're still seeking the U.S. side. But I just think there's other ways to play it. I look at even most combined point getter. It's something that the U.S. team and the players on the U.S. team are heavily favored. But as Jay had pointed out, it's a volume game, and more likely the internationals are going to have a handful of players that are going to be playing 5 matches. This is true over the last 3 President's Cups. So I think there's better ways to play it than maybe just straight outrights.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And I think the thing to remember there with the top points getter is that when you're a heavy favorite, almost in every sport, you just become more conservative. So the US may not need to play their best guys, 5 times. Whereas when you're the heavy underdog, you need to take more risk. You need to work at the tails of outcomes. And so that's why, I think Paige and I both like Sungjae there, where he's 20-1 to be the top points getter, which I was looking at Justin Thomas initially, but then Paige's notes definitely talked me into Sungjae there. So I think at 20-1, he's definitely worth a look.
Well, I think historically, I mentioned it, the last 3 playings, the internationals have played 15 different players, 5 matches. The United States, only 10 different players. So likely you're going to see a couple more players on the international team play all matches. And Sungjae, I think Hideki Matsuyama would also be somebody to keep an eye on in that category.
The top debutante market's pretty interesting, Paige, and I know you have a lean on this side. Who are you looking at to be top debutante?
I'm leaning at Sam. I'm looking at Sam Burns for rookie in this category. I just feel like he's bringing something to the table with the distance off of the tee that he's going to have. You mentioned that they're going to keep the rough low. That's going to be to his advantage. While he is long, he's not necessarily the straightest driver of the ball, but it's important to be able to hit the greens, and he's got the ball striking to go with what is a strength now, and that's his putting. He's had tremendous gains in his putting over the last half of the season, so I'm keeping an eye on him for low rookie or low debutante.
Yeah, in that market, I would look at a guy who we haven't said his name yet, but he would be my version of Paige's Kevin Kisner in Taylor Pendrith. And that's just because he gets so much distance off the tee. He's 360 yards, 316 yards off the tee. It's an average that makes him top 10 on the tour. He's in decent form as well. He was 8th at the BMW Championship a month ago. He's top 13 in 6 of his past 8 starts. And this course really rewards distance. And he's got that in spades. So he would be one I'd look at plus 2,200. And then the other guy, Brad, who you mentioned, is Tom Kim, where when you're looking at longer shots, you want variance. You want players with high ceiling. And you know what gives you the high ceiling? Just being a young human being, just because we haven't seen you as much. And youth creates a high ceiling. So Tom Kim, I think, is definitely a guy that I would look at as well.
Yeah, Tom Kim's who I had circled on mine at plus 1,200. It's kind of hard for me to ignore. He's going to be a lot of fun. But I just want to thank both of you guys for taking the time to talk about how to bet the President's Cup. Everyone be sure to put down some bets, have some fun. Most importantly, this is a celebration of golf. Thank you guys so much. Take care.